It's News from Heaven, and today we are going to look at how you can help angels help you. I'm going to give us the plane into which they can operate. Doesn't sound so bad, right? Like and subscribe. If you're new to this show, thanks for coming. We are going to ask you to leave comments. I want you to know, like, what's this show like? How was it stumbling into this corner of the internet? And what I hope we can do, what I hope is communicated every time we touch this show, is the point is we are trying to make life better. And we're specifically trying to rescue people from themselves. I mean, I don't know about you, but the way it is for me is there's all kinds of stuff making life less fun than it should be. We've got all this negative stuff, all these worries and doubts and critical thinking about all kinds of things gumming up the mind. Why is it like this? Why aren't we happier? Couldn't some angelic help get things going here? What we're going to do here is see, how do we get this divine goodness past the clouds into us? And is there something to do with us lacking the proper reception? We're going to be in Swedenborg's Journal of Spiritual Experiences, 4611. There is a constant inflow of hell, dun dun dun, through emissary spirits, but conversely, there is a constant inflow of heaven through angels. Yeah, if this is your first time, you're probably about to walk out the door, but this is the picture, man. So we've got you may have felt yourself in your mind, like I feel like there is an angel and a devil on the shoulder. Swedenborg says there's this larger network of consciousness where there's us in the middle, and we are left in freedom to have bad thoughts and feelings that we gravitate to and latch onto, or good ones. And that's courtesy of hell is actually trying to influence us here, sending up everything that you don't want in your mind. And heaven is trying to send down everything that makes us into who we should be, who are destined to be. Angels continually, and look at the importance here of what angels are doing. They're not just, strumming that harp, continually moderate the inflow from hell and try to turn it away. So not only are they giving us what's good and true, they're saying, okay, come on, guys, get out of here. Get over there. Go that way. You don't need to be flowing in. But, and this is the key, the angels flow particularly into faith's truths and the goodness of faith's loving kindness. Faith being a classic Swedenborg redefinition that has been imprinted on it. Faith, in other places, is the affection for truth, for or of truth. It's the love for learning what things really are, but then really the love of the spiritual principles that teach us about love and how to serve the neighbor and how it really is. Have you ever come across some perspective on life that just makes you say, oh, that's so much better. That is fair and just and equitable and loving and good. That's what faith is. And not just religious-y stuff, but just realizing I should treat this person well, or admiring when somebody is fair or just or compassionate. This is that faith. So angels are trying to do us this solid of deflecting hell, but they flow particularly into faith's truth and the goodness of faith's loving kindness that has been imprinted on it. So the things we learn and the love that spurs. So if we're back here and trying to figure out how can we, if we're asserting that there's this sort of negativity welling up from hell, that these clouds that are surrounding us are all from that origin, how do we get this good stuff here to have more power? Because right now it's trying to come in, but it needs something. There's something we need to do. It needs an interface. It needs a spot that I don't know how does Wi-Fi work, but somehow you need a device that can pick up that wireless signal. So we need to have faith's truths. So these little bits of the right kind of knowledge. And really, a lot of it is anything that points us toward good. And then the love that those bring in us. So we have these love and truth combination. That is what allows the angels to get in there, find a home, and through that, legitimately push back the influences of everything that's trying to make life miserable for us and for everyone we come into contact with. So we've got to build this world. Therefore, if people do not have such qualities and concern, aid cannot be brought to them from heaven, but is swept away as if by a river from hell. As to their thoughts, and then the Lord acts. Oh wait, let's stop right here. As to their thoughts. Isn't that isn't that a fascinating image? Have you ever felt like, you probably never did, that your mind was a river from hell? That sounds a little bit like Dante's Inferno. But if you think of hell as negativity and stuff that's not constructive and stuff that attacks your happiness and the happiness of others, all the time I find myself starting to think a thought, and that's a nice thought, and suddenly this kind of worry or this kind of competitive thing creeps in, and how did I get way down here where I'm in this congested, attacking, fearful place, and then I've got to climb back up and try to think positive, and then I'll get swept down by the river. This is the river of hell, trying to get us into this hell state of mind where we're not happy and we're not feeling the love. And sometimes it can feel to me, especially when I'm thinking about all this Swedenborgian kind of stuff, where I know that there's angels and God is out there like, hello, can I get some help, please? Why aren't you guys, I feel a little bit overmatched. Well, they've got to have the interface. I've got to have the operating system that allows them to run the programs that they need to help me. There's this thing Swedenborg talks about called order, that we'll call the divine design, that life is order. You look at the physical world. One of the reasons why there is this clash between what science finds out about life and then what religion type stuff is saying about life is the religious stuff often seems arbitrary and it doesn't seem to follow rules and order, whereas everything we're finding out about the world is that it's super organized, and you can learn something about how a particular piece of matter moves, and by that you can know how everything else in the universe moves because it follows this divine order. So does everything else. So does the spiritual. So even if there's a love there and angels in heaven are trying to help you, if they can't get that access in us, they can't do it. It's not just that they're holding back and saying like, earn it or you'll be fine. They want to, but we've got to provide them the plane. This is how we can help angels help us. They can't help us. They can't throw us that life raft unless we have these good and true concepts in the mind, which, hey, good on you for searching around, trying to find spiritual type videos. You're trying to arm your mind with those. Hopefully we can give you some in this episode. Hopefully you find some in other places and we get it so that heaven has all the access it needs. And then, but if we don't, if we say, no, I don't really care about building that stuff up, and we build some kind of shield here and just say, I'm going to focus on the negative stuff, love of self, of the world, then heaven doesn't have this access in here. It's all blocked off, and there's a different way in which we're more focused on what's down here. There becomes a different way in which heaven and God leads us then. Then the Lord acts through the angels into external considerations, which are outer restraints, so that they may live well and do not do harm to the neighbor, so what are outer constraints? Lest they lose their profits or their honor, life and reputation, and so on. Thus they are ruled in outward ways. So if we're not ruled, meaning if we're not guided by, I shouldn't do this harmful thing because it's harmful, but instead it can be, if everyone knew I was plotting to do that, they would think I was a freak, and so they wouldn't think I was cool, and I want everyone to think well of me, or I want to be able to be in high positions or whatever. So that can keep us in line, and does in a lot of ways. This just, I want to say that mean thing, but I don't want people to think less of me, even in little ways. That's outer restraints, and we're ruled by both at different times. But that's what it is when angels don't have this, when they can't help us through reminding us, don't do that because it's not good. Don't listen to that because it's false. Then they can at least say, well, hey, don't do that because you'll look bad. And sometimes that's the best we can do. Now we get into some spirit observation. Swedenborg was having these experiences all the time where he was learning these, like I said before, didn't I say it before? You can look at one piece of matter in the physical world, I'm not a physicist. And that you can learn from that, how matter operates, and then apply that to everything. So we have Swedenborg with one particular spirit interaction that teaches us these larger principles. I observed spirits who were a little toward the left. In the spiritual world, all directions are relative to the observer. At the level of the crown of the head, in the spiritual world, these are the weird spiritual rules of everything. In the spiritual world, everything has relation to the human form, so you can get a sort of schematic picture of where they are based on how an interaction with you. I know, sounds intense. Who were there secretly and who had taken away the inflow coming in from angels. So they were able to hijack the system. Somehow, these little spirits here were able to interact with Swedenborg and act as a block near the crown of the head, as a block to where the angels were trying to come in. And let's see how they were doing that and why. They were subtle. Consequently, they could do this. Because they were able to act subtly, Swedenborg could barely notice what they were doing. It was harder for angels to stop that. Somehow, that mattered. That made it so they could pull this off. The things that were flowing in then appeared to be very harsh, which I believe he's talking about. The ideas and thoughts in his mind, because of this spiritual influence, were getting really negative. He was getting carried off in this river, like we were talking about. But they were discovered, I probably got that wrong, I should say discovered and driven off toward the front, where also they practiced the same thing. So get out of here. But they didn't give up their ways. Afterwards, they were cast into hell. And I would say back into hell. These are the kind of spirits that Swedenborg talks about, that where they live, if what they're trying to do, this is a little less on the difference between heaven and hell. If what you're trying to do is rob people of happiness directly by having making it so harsh, negative stuff goes into their mind, why would you do that? That's not okay. If that's what you want to do, and even if you get driven off and say, no, I want to do this, I want to go back and do this, for whatever reason, you want to control people, that's fun to you, or you're trying to get something out of them. If you keep doing that, we have to put you in a place where you can't do that. That is what hell is. They were refined, almost invisible. So these are not like thugs, like, oh, good, but it's like, these are crafty, but not crafty enough, but wicked. I know from many years' experience that it is so. And so Swedenborg gave you one example of how hell was affecting his mind, how they were able to subvert the influence of angels, and what it's like when you don't have that plane. And now he's going in to talk about, this is what it was like being me this whole time. And not that his life is that different from ours. It's that he understands what's behind the curtain of the stuff that's in all of our psychology. Now, it does seem like at times he has these more direct, the spiritual world is messing with his thoughts and feelings in a way that I don't think happens to us. But this does play out at some level in the backdrop of our psyche. So all the little scrambles, you ever feel like this is how convoluted and complex your mental picture is? All the drama and the trauma and I'm carried away into negative thoughts, I'm coming back, sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. This is what reaches us of this clash between heaven and hell behind us. So Swedenborg is experiencing something very directly and overtly that does, according to him, that does underlie the experience of what it's like to be human. All in our own different ways, but we are caught between heaven and hell in the same way. The human thought sphere is resting between those two. You could see this in life. Every movie basically is about, okay, don't go down that path, do this one instead. And you certainly see this in the way that we get these conflicting messages and the behaviors that school administrators are trying to prevent bullying, but there's stuff inside people that makes them want to bully people. There's always this sort of clash, but that this actually also inside the mind, and is why you can sometimes feel like I'm not in control of any of this stuff. Why can't I even tell my own brain what to think and what not to think? This is the sort of the heaven and hell that underlies that. And so Swedenborg is talking to you about. This is something that was really surprising to him, and something he wanted to communicate is, I found out why it's like this in the mind. So this is him doing that. I know from many years' experience, and he was actually decades of getting to observe this tangibly, that it is so, that the hells inject evils and falsities. So you might not just wanting to do something bad, but misunderstandings about life, the things that make us miserable, and pervert goods and truths. So what you've already got that is good, putting a bad interpretation on it, and attack humanity in 1,000 ways and with 1,000 tricks. You're not ever going to be able to pick it all out. And that in an instant, the Lord out of heaven counteracts this through the angels. So to get the angels to help you, to help the angels help you, this is how God helps us. That's the order. That's the divine order. They turn them away. The angels turn away the effects of these negative spirits, take them away, soften and temper them when they can't be all the way taken away. This has happened to me continually over many years. And I thought that was cool when I saw that, because you think about the softening and the tempering. Swedenborg went on his own journey of not just becoming somebody who could observe a side of life that most people don't know if it exists or don't see, but his own journey from right and wrong, that he had these huge struggles with his own pride, also these false beliefs that made him vulnerable to the negative influences. He saw that this process, these angels were helping him, and seeing it happen through the true ideas that were slowly being put into his mind and the good feelings, that was the plane they were operating into. But also many years. Does it ever feel like, oh, I've found spiritual kind of stuff and shouldn't I be making progress? Even Swedenborg, taking many years for this to happen. To me, this gives this sense of like, there can be progress even if that progress is slow. But to ensure that this progress happens, how you help angels help you, there must be truths of faith joined with the goodness of charity into which they may flow. Otherwise, they do not have a plane into which they can be received. Now, again, what is this? It's tough when Swedenborg says, here's the key, but then gives you some terms that, what would that actually be? The truths of faith joined with the goodness of charity. So this would be I would say, aspirations even, because he says that even if you don't have your factual information correct, if it's something that you believe is the right thing, it can work just as well. Truths of faith, this would be aspirations toward what's good and true, what's right, joined with the goodness of charity. So to have ideas joined with charity, being love of the common good, love of what's right, love of what's fair, any of that, love of compassion, any of those higher qualities, to have the ideas about how life should be lived joined with an impulse to actually care about how other people are. That is what angels can flow into. And through that, they can help you. Because we're talking about go help other people. The angels want to help you. And when we're in this confusion and all this stuff is going on, they want to clear that up. And what heaven wants to do is get rid of all this complexity and all the baggage that we hold. And instead, have that my yoke is easy and my burden is light. This is the life of heaven. What heaven is looking to do is free you from anxiety and free you from guilt and free you from all the burdens and give you this joyful, simple, yet meaningful, yet nuanced existence where you're plugged right into angels and plugged right into heaven. And that is done invariably through get these truths in there. Follow what you think is right. Work on it. Try to have it be a part of how you approach life. And that's all. We're just meeting them a little bit of the way. Just creating that plane. It doesn't say you have those ideas and then you figure it all out. You do everything. All you're doing is giving angels something that they can work in. And it doesn't have to be exactly the right idea, because if it's pointing in the right direction, they can get in. Don't you have a concept that you know or feel like you know, but suddenly you get it. Suddenly it means something to you. This is the plane in which angels can operate to work the magic in life. For me, everything that seems to work is You just set it up and then you get the inspiration. And there's times when I've got the same ideas floating around in my head, but it's not alive. It doesn't help me get out of whatever I'm in. But suddenly something clicks, and I can feel like I'm riding this wave of positivity and right-headedness. So to me, it's got to be, this is heaven working in. So you can stack the deck in your favor there by just continuing to do what you're doing, which is look for what's, seek out the truth and seek out what's loving. And then you don't even have to worry about yourself, because angels are going to come in, right? And they want to help you. And how they help you is if you look to help others. That's the secret. That's what hell doesn't want you to think about. Hell wants you to feel compacted and closed in and like, oh, I have to save myself and I'm in all this trouble. But really, by looking outward, by learning to love what's good and true, heaven's got your back. That's the whole message. Heaven's got your back, and they know how to take care of everything that you're worried about. Life is good. That's the news from heaven. Hope it gave you a lift. Hope you feel like, okay, I can do this. I've got backup. And I hope that you find ways to make that plane stronger and stronger. Let me know in the comments, did it work for you? What's worked for you? What is working for you? Because we all need these ideas. You can leave in the comments, here's an idea that's helped me. This has felt like a plane for angels to operate into. And then someone else will come read the comments, and they'll get that in their mind. That'll be their little blue line that the yellow highlighter flows into. Thanks so much, everybody. Great getting to talk to you about stuff like this. I can't tell you how much this puts me in a good headspace, so hopefully it did for you as well. And I will talk to you soon. And man, I hope that you had I hope you had a better couple of days than I even have, assuming mine are going to be good. And we join and then do this again. See you soon.